Hi, welcome to the third section of our course. Today we will get to the things that are more interesting in my opinion. More interesting because the effects of our work will be immediately visible. Our work will have a nice appearance. This is what CSS does, and this is what we are going to learn till the end of this course. And there's a lot to learn because CSS is a very complex technology. A technology that gives a lot of joy by working with it, but above all it gives many possibilities. I prepared a document which you can see on your screen right now. It's an HTML document where we have h1 tag, where you can see right here, a p tag with some text, h2 tag, h3 tag, another p tag, a button, and a hyperlink. As you can see, I didn't add any CSS styles to it. It's just plain HTML. And this is how our document looks in Google Chrome, in Firefox, and in Opera browser. As you can see, it looks exactly the same. And they look the same because of default CSS styles given by every browser, and these CSS styles are the same for every browser according to the standard. No matter how it's implemented, we are not interested in it. What matters is that all browsers have the same styles. If we create, for example, an h1 tag in our file, it will look exactly the same in every browser, and it will be bigger than h2 tag. This is how it looks in Chrome. This is how it looks in Firefox, etc., etc. So what we can see here is that we created an HTML document and didn't specify its appearance in CSS, but the browser automatically gave default CSS styles to every element in our document. So we can see h1 tag is the biggest and it's bold by default. The p tag is just plain text. h2 tag is also bold but smaller than h1. h3 is smaller than h2. The second p tag looks exactly the same like the first one. We have default button right here, which you can see is another font than the p tag or h tags. And we have a hyperlink, which is blue and underlined by default. What you can also see are those spaces right here and right here. And those are margins set by default by the browser, so our text won't stick to the edges of the browser window. As I said, we have different fonts used by default by the browser. For h tags and p tags, it's Times New Roman, and for the button, it's Tahoma. And it's the same for Firefox and for Opera. This is because there are built-in browser styles, and above all because there's a standard that all browser producers accept. Because these producers also create this standard, and this standard specifies certain values. Let's close these for now. And here you can see, for example, a standard for default CSS styles in Google Chrome. And here you can see, for example, a CSS rule for the body tag, where we can see display block. We'll get to this in this course. And you can see margin 8 pixels. And that's exactly what I showed you right here. These spaces from the top, bottom, left, and right. This is the 8 pixels margin. And it's the same for every browser. This is because every browser has its own CSS styles, and they look more or less like this, where we have CSS rules specifying the appearance of every element in HTML document. We can imagine that every browser has its own CSS style file. Here, for example, the one from Google Chrome, where all these values are specified. Here's a standard for Internet Explorer, which is no longer supported, but I want to show you something. Here you can see we have a body tag specified, and we can see the same thing. Display block, margin 8 pixels. Here you can see those margins were different, but that was before CSS 3 specification. And here we can see the default styles for the Firefox browser, and you can see as well We have a body tag right here, a CSS rule for it, and you can see the same thing. Display block and margin 8 pixels. So we can check the default styles for every browser in the internet, but we actually don't have to. We just need to know that there's such a thing. This is very important to us because we have to reset some of these styles starting our own project. For example, we don't need those margins right here and right here, so we would like to probably reset it at the beginning of our every project. The same thing with those default buttons or those not so good looking hyperlinks. Everything will have to be changed, but that's no problem at all. The default styles are just to make the websites that are written in plain HTML without any additional CSS styles look somehow. So when we just create the HTML file, like in our example, just place some tags without specifying its appearance, the browser will display it with its own default CSS styles. So that you can see what is a header, what is a paragraph of text, what is a button, and what is a hyperlink. However, our task is to write our own CSS styles. What is important, all styles written by us override the browser's default styles. But we will learn about it while learning about the cascading. Because as we know, CSS is cascading style sheets. I will tell you everything about it, so don't worry, it's all ahead of us. For now, I just want you to know that the browser default styles exist and they look the same in every browser. Now I opened the Firefox Developer Edition browser that I recommended to download a couple videos back. It is worth having because it contains many additional features that are useful for the developers. Now what I want to do is to click F12 on my keyboard to get a DevTools. You can also click the right mouse button on the website and click Inspect an Element, but I prefer this way because it's easier for me. Now I want to check our H1 tag by clicking it. There we should have CSS rules for this element, but as we can see it's empty because we didn't add any rule. But let's go to the computed overlap right here. Let's make it bigger a little bit, and we can check this option, which will show us the browser styles. So let's check it, and now you can see how many properties with values the browser add to our H1 tag, even though we didn't do anything as a developer. We must be aware that all the properties of all the elements on the website are created by the browser when the website is displayed to the user. As you may know, we just add the H1 tag to our HTML document and didn't specify its appearance in any way, but as you can see, it has these all properties given by the browser. For example, we didn't say we want this H1 tag to be black, but now if we filter property called color, we will get all these properties, and among them a property called color, which is responsible for the font color, and you can see it's black. It's displayed by the RGB function. It refers to 3 colors, red, green, and black, which are set to 0, and that means the color is black. We're gonna all learn about the colors in this course, so don't worry about it. And it's set like this for every browser. I personally know most of these properties, and you'll get to know them as well, but not every of them because usually we don't use them. Some are more popular and some are not. Many of these properties are not necessary and there's no need to learn them by heart. But now let's check something else. How about the fonts on our website? Let's go to our HTML tag. Let's make it bigger. And let's go to fonts overlap. Here you can see all fonts used on this website. As we can see, we have Tahoma with its default option, and Times New Roman, where we have Times New Roman bold and Times New Roman normal. Here we can see Tahoma is used for the button, which you can see gets highlighted when we hover to this Tahoma font. Times New Roman bold is used for the headings, as you can see, and the normal Times New Roman is used for the rest, of our HTML elements, such as the p tags and the a tag. Now I'd like to say a couple words about the fonts, about the serif and sans serif fonts. So basically, Times New Roman is a serif font, and what is characteristic for the serif fonts are those ornaments at the edges of the letters, while serif fonts, like the Homa, are much simple, as you can see on this button right here. Generally, serif fonts are more suitable for printing, and sans serif fonts are better for websites. But the default font for most of the HTML elements is Times New Roman, which is a serif font. When we scroll a little bit down, we can also see all fonts on page. And here we have the Homa, Times New Roman in its bold version, Times New Roman in its normal version, and everywhere you can see this sign right here, which is system. Up here, and up here at the Homa. So what does that mean that these are the system fonts? It means that these fonts are not delivered with the website, but are already in the user's operating system. System fonts are already installed with systems like Windows, Linux, and Mac OS. And those fonts are used by the browser by default. Of course, we as the developers have the option to add other nicer fonts to the website, and we will do it in the future also in this course. Here you can see when I click to the button, you can see that fonts used are the Homa. And when I click to the heading, we can see Times New Roman bold. And when I click to the p tag, we can see normal Times New Roman used. Now I wanted to go back to Google Chrome to show you something else. Let's open our DevTools with F12 key on our keyboard. You can also use the right mouse button and click Inspect an Element, but this way is more suitable for me. Let's click on our body tag. Here we can see that we have no custom CSS rules right here, but then we have this other overlap where we can see these are user agent style sheet, and that means these are the CSS styles given by the browser, where we can see, as I said before, our body tag has display block and margin 8 pixels, which you can see on your monitor right now, represented by this orange area. But if we want, we can add some rules. For example, let's click on our H1 tag. Here we can see there are no CSS rules given by the developer, but we can see also user agent style sheet, which are the CSS styles given by the browser. And we can see we have display block as well. The font size is 2M. M is a unit used in CSS, just like pixels or percents. And 2M means that this font size is 2 times bigger than the parent element of this H1 heading. We can also see some margins, and we have font weight, which is bold, where for example our p tag doesn't have this property font weight bold, so it's normal by default. Let's go back to our H1, and just to see that H1 is bigger than H2, let's go to our H2 tag, and we can see that font size of the H2 tag is 1.5M, which is smaller than 2M represented in the H1 tag. So the M units can't be displayed, so they have to be computed. So we can go to our computed overlap right here, and here we have all computed values for every element on our website. And here you can see that font size, which is 2M in our example, is equal to 32 pixels, which is exactly 2 times bigger than its parent element, which is the body, where we can see H2 element has 1.5M, which will be 24 pixels, and our H3 tag, when we go to styles once again, we can see its font size is 1.17M, which will be, when we go to compute it, 18.72 pixels. Let's go back to our styles overlap. Let's click our H1 tag. And now I want to show you that we can add some CSS rules if we want to test something or see how something works or looks in the browser. All we need to do is to click this plus right here, new style rule. Here we have the style rule right here. And now we can add, for example, font size. Let's go with 100 pixels. And you can see the difference already on your monitor. As you can see, our rule overwrites the browser default rule, which I said before. Or we can change 100 pixels to 3M, for example. And we can check it in computed overlap. We can see that 3M is 48 pixels. Let's go back to our styles overlap. Let's change something else. For example, color. Let's make it red. And you can see we have a red color of our H1 tag. You have to know that these changes are not permanent. If we refresh the website, all changes made in DevTools will disappear. If we want to set the permanent appearance of the element, we have to include it in a CSS file in our project. Because now when I refresh this website, everything will go back to normal. We can enter any website, see what CSS styles it have, and even change them to see how it works and looks. So let's mess with this website, for example. Let's go to our DevTools with F12 on our keyboard. Let's select this heading right here. We can see the styles overlap. Let's click this plus to add some rules. Let's make it color blue, font size 100 pixels. As you can see, let's check what kind of font this is. Let's click it. We can see it in the computed overlap. Let's scroll a little bit down. We have a font family, which is the property responsible for our font. And we see its name, which is Active Grotesque, and the type of the font, which is sans serif. Because as you can see, it has no ornaments on the edges of the letters. It's a nice simple font. As I said, very suitable for websites. As you can see, Active Grotesque is a strange name. So as you may guess, it's not a system font, but it's imported with the website. And we will learn how to import custom fonts to our websites in this course. So if you want, you can go to any website and mess with it without any consequences to see how something is built and how it will look with different CSS rules. Without consequences, because after refreshing, everything will go back to normal. Now when I close the DevTools, you see this website, which I messed with. And when I refresh the website, everything goes back to normal. This is because when you enter a website address, the browser downloads the website and creates the copy of it on your computer. When you change something in the DevTools, you only make changes to the copy of the website on your computer. When you refresh the website, a copy of the website from the server is downloaded to your computer again, overriding the website you made changes to. In a moment, I'll show you how to make permanent CSS changes to your website that won't disappear when you refresh it. And then we will move to the CSS foundation theory, after which everything will become clear to you.